Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our latest updates on critical news like this. In today's video, we're diving deep into a major issue that's affecting millions of senior citizens across the UK. We're talking about the DWP pension cuts, which were recently blocked by a court. But the big question remains, will the £416 pension payments be at risk again in the future? In this video, we'll break down the court ruling, the implications of these pension cuts, why so many pensioners are at risk of losing their vital payments, and what could come next in this ongoing battle. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the end because the reality of this situation could drastically change the lives of millions of elderly citizens. Let's get into it. Let's start by making sure everyone understands exactly what the DWP pension payments are and why they matter. The Department for Work and Pensions, DWP, is responsible for managing and distributing benefits, including the state pension, to eligible UK residents. This pension is a crucial source of income for senior citizens, particularly those who are no longer working and have limited financial resources. The state pension is meant to provide a basic level of income during retirement. For many pensioners, this is their main source of income, and without it, they would struggle to cover the costs of daily living, medical expenses, and more. The amount that someone receives is based on their work history and national insurance contributions, with some individuals also receiving additional benefits if they have a low income or live with disabilities. Now, while the state pension itself isn't a huge amount by modern standards, it's a lifeline for seniors. Without it, many pensioners would find themselves at risk of poverty. It's especially important considering that the elderly population is often hit hardest by inflation, the rising cost of living, and the increasing cost of healthcare. But lately, these payments have come under threat. The government has proposed a series of pension reforms, some of which have sparked controversy, particularly because they could reduce the amount of money seniors receive. And that's where this whole situation gets serious. The UK government, in an attempt to deal with its mounting public debt, has been looking at ways to reduce spending in various sectors. One of the areas under scrutiny has been pensions, with the idea of cutting the amount paid to seniors as a means of saving money. This has not been an easy decision, but the government's justification has been that pension payments are one of the most significant areas of public spending. For many pensioners, though, the prospect of these cuts is nothing short of devastating. The idea was that the DWP would reduce or slow the increase in pension payments, which could potentially leave millions of elderly citizens with less money each month. The biggest concern is that the proposed cuts would have meant seniors would not receive the expected £416 boost that many were counting on. This payment was supposed to ease the financial burden caused by inflation and rising costs of living, including the skyrocketing prices of energy, food, and healthcare. For many elderly people, that extra £416 was not a luxury, it was a necessity. The proposal to cut pension payments sparked outrage among seniors, their families, and advocacy groups, who argued that these cuts would push elderly people into deeper poverty and hardship. It's no secret that pensioners have been facing challenges in the past few years, with inflation outpacing wage growth, meaning that even with a pension, many people struggle to make ends meet. So, when this cut was proposed, it felt like another blow to those who already had so little to fall back on. But here's the twist, in a major development, the court recently blocked these pension cuts. This was a huge victory for those who had been fighting to protect pensioners' rights. The case was brought to court by advocacy groups and pensioners themselves, who argued that the cuts were not just unfair but also illegal. The claim was based on several legal and ethical grounds, including the fact that the proposed cuts violated pensioners' human rights and the existing agreements that had been made regarding the payments. The court ruling came as a breath of relief for many pensioners, as it blocked the cuts and ruled that the DWP could not go forward with its plan to reduce payments. It was an important win in the ongoing fight for seniors' rights and financial security. The ruling has made headlines across the country, with many people celebrating this legal victory. However, before we all get too comfortable, it's important to note that this ruling isn't the end of the road. While the pension cuts were temporarily blocked, the government still has avenues to challenge the ruling or push through new reforms that could lead to future cuts. This means that the battle is far from over, and pensioners are still at risk of having their payments reduced in the future. The £416 boost to pension payments, which many pensioners were counting on to stay afloat during difficult economic times, is now at the centre of a larger debate. The court ruling temporarily blocked the cuts, but the £416 increase is still at risk. As of now, the £416 payments have not been fully guaranteed, and the court ruling only applies to the cuts in the short term. So, while it's good news for seniors that the cuts were blocked for now, there's still a possibility that the government will find other ways to reduce payments. Whether it's through a different form of reform, a cap on how much pensions can increase, or a re-evaluation of the existing pension calculations, seniors are still left uncertain about their future. The court ruling was a major win in the fight for pensioner rights, but it's only one step in a larger battle. Pensioners and advocacy groups are continuing to push for a more permanent solution that will protect pension payments from cuts, but it remains to be seen whether the government will listen to these demands or push through cuts in a different way. If the pension cuts do go through, whether in their original form or through some other kind of reform, it won't just be a handful of people who are affected. Millions of seniors rely on their pension payments to survive. The £416 increase, in particular, was seen as a crucial lifeline for many elderly citizens living on a fixed income. For these pensioners, a cut to their payments could mean they would have to make serious sacrifices, like cutting back on essential goods and services. Many of them already live with little financial flexibility, and this extra money was intended to cover basic needs like groceries, utility bills, and even necessary medical expenses. Without it, some seniors may find themselves unable to heat their homes during the winter, unable to afford nutritious food, or even unable to access the healthcare services they need. The cuts would disproportionately affect seniors who are already in vulnerable positions, those living alone, those who have no family to rely on, and those who have health conditions that make it difficult to work or earn extra income. It's these groups who will feel the full impact of the cuts. Additionally, it's not just the individual pensioners who will be affected. Families and communities may also feel the ripple effect. Seniors who have less disposable income may not be able to spend money in their local economies, which could result in decreased demand for goods and services and have a broader economic impact. The potential pension cuts are not just a social issue, they're an economic one as well. Older adults represent a substantial portion of the consumer base. Even though their spending power may be limited, pensioners are still spending money in local shops, on healthcare, and on other essential goods. If the government proceeds with cutting pension payments, this could lead to a significant reduction in consumer spending, which could hurt businesses, especially small businesses. Pensioners also tend to spend more on healthcare, which could put more pressure on the NHS and other healthcare services. If seniors are unable to afford basic healthcare needs due to reduced pensions, they may have to rely more heavily on the public health system, which could strain resources even further. Moreover, reducing pensions could have long-term consequences for the economy. With less disposable income, seniors may be forced to cut back on spending, which could slow down economic growth. This is particularly worrying in an era when the UK economy is already facing numerous challenges, including inflation and post-pandemic recovery. The UK government has made it clear that tackling public debt is one of its main priorities, and pensions have been identified as an area where savings can be made. However, the cuts have sparked a significant backlash, especially from pensioners who argue that they've earned their pensions through years of hard work and national insurance contributions. The government claims that pension cuts are necessary to ensure long-term fiscal stability. They argue that if pension payouts continue to increase at their current rates, it will place an unsustainable burden on the taxpayer and future generations. But many argue that cutting pensions is not the right way to balance the budget. Pensioners are already among the most vulnerable in society, and cutting their payments could lead to increased poverty, social unrest, and greater dependence on other social services. So, what does the future hold for UK pensioners? While the court ruling was a major win, the government still has the option to appeal or to introduce new pension reforms that could reduce the £416 payments or even cut pensions more broadly. Pensioners and advocacy groups will continue to push back against any reforms that harm seniors, but this fight is far from over. For pensioners, the key is to stay informed. There are still many uncertainties ahead, and it's essential to keep up with news and developments in the ongoing legal and political battles. Advocacy groups are continuing to pressure the government to protect pension payments, and they need support from the public to make their voices heard. So, there you have it, folks. The DWP pension cuts were blocked by the court, but the £416 payments are still at risk. Millions of seniors across the UK depend on their pensions to survive, and any reduction in those payments could have devastating consequences. While the court ruling was a victory, it's clear that the fight is not over, and pensioners must continue to stay vigilant. What do you think? Will the government find a way to implement pension cuts, or will they back down in the face of public opposition? We want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and share it with anyone who might be affected by this issue. Subscribe to the channel for more updates, and thank you for watching. See you in the next video.